48% of single parents have a clear understanding of what they're looking for, which is higher than typical singles who might go out, throw spaghetti against the wall and say, hey, that was fun. Whereas when you're a single parent, I would say figure out what it is you're looking for, or at least have an idea before you step out there, just so that your energy and your time is not wasted.
We are going to be speaking to Rachel DeAlto today, and we're talking about practical tips for single parents who are out there dating again. I'm Sandy Weiner, and welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I have written 2 books. The first is Becoming a Woman of Value: How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this is for anyone who wants to go from basic survival to thriving. And that means learning how to play a bigger game in all aspects of your life and how to increase your core confidence in every area, learning how to set boundaries, how to speak up, how to show up differently in your life in a more empowering way. And the second book is Choice Points in Dating. And this book I wrote as a guidebook for dating, and it's to empower people to make healthier choices at every stage of dating and relationships. Both books are available on Amazon for Kindle or paperback, and Choice Points is also available as an audiobook. This week's tip on becoming a woman of value is to create a life that energizes you and fills you up. Often when we're out there dating, we are holding on to, attaching to a person who may not be right for us, but it's often because our life is not full enough and we are putting all of our energy into this one person. And so I'm going to challenge you this week to find a way to add more socializing, maybe joining a club or two, maybe also going to the gym, doing something that you've been putting off or avoiding, and fill up your life with hobbies, with things that you love, so that dating just becomes kind of the icing on the cake. Before I bring Rachel on, I want to invite you to join my Facebook group, which is called Your Last First Date. It is a fabulous group of women over 40 who are looking for positive support on their journey through dating and relationships. We are really unique in this world of dating groups in that we are monitored very carefully. And most groups out there do not have monitors. The posts are really unkind, unhealthy, not in my group. So join us there at Your Last First Date. And so I wanted to now welcome my guest. She is Rachel DeAlto, the relationship expert for Stir, which is the leading single parent dating app. She is a communication and relatability expert. She authored the book Relatable: How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere. Rachel's expertise has been featured on TV, on Married at First Sight and TLC's Kate+Date, and she speaks about relationship building and authenticity. Welcome to the podcast, Rachel.
It's so good to be here again. I mean, I feel like I think I looked it up. It was like 8 years ago, I think was the last time that we did a podcast together.
I feel like it was longer.
Or it was
This show
longer
was
than
11
that.
years old. So, and you
Stop.
were one of the first.
Oh, then we go
first
way back.
guests. Yeah.
I think I just saw
Yeah.
an email that we exchanged probably 8 years ago. And I don't think my
Oh,
emails even go back that far.
oh,
So
that is so
I am
funny.
happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Yeah, this is episode number 626. Yeah, we've been doing this
Stop.
a
Oh
long
my gosh.
time.
Good for you. I love it.
Oh, well, you've come a long way since we first talked, and now you're working with Match as one of your
Yes.
side businesses, and they just launched this new app, right? Is this fairly new?
Yeah, Stir's been around for a bit now, but yeah, Stir is focused entirely on single parents dating. So it's really facilitating single parents who may have different schedules, different priorities, so that they know that they're meeting people who get them.
And so they're younger, people with younger kids at home still.
It's no, it's not necessarily younger. It's all ages, but it's people who are parents, and so the age range. I'm actually not exactly sure where the majority are, but I do know just from experience that it's all ages. So it could be kids in college, it could be toddlers, just depending on who's showing up.
Well, what are some of the biggest struggles for single parents out there who are dating?
Oh, there's so many things. I think there's misconceptions, and then I think there's actual struggles. I was a single parent before I got remarried, and one of the things that I see all the time is that people think that you're looking for a parent for your child. You're going into these situations trying to find that other partner to raise your kids with, and that's not necessarily the case. And actually, that was one of the top three misconceptions that we found in our research. So that's one thing. Thinking that you don't have enough time to date was another misconception that is a very valid concern. I think you find the time to date, right? So it can be a challenge. And that is something that any single parent has to look at is, how am I going to prioritize my time? How am I going to make sure that my kids have me enough, but I also am taking care of myself and my needs and my desires. And so all of those things are elements that can be overcome through conversation in terms of the first, and planning in terms of the latter.
Yeah, those are, I mean, I also was a single parent when I got divorced. I had three kids still at home. And I remember it took me a while to be ready to date again. And I
Absolutely.
wanted to make sure my life was settled and that their life was less chaotic because it is a lot to adjust to. But also, I remember sitting my kids down and talking to them about not looking for a replacement for your father, and I think those are important conversations. And I'm going to be dating, and here's what to expect. I'm not going to introduce you to everyone until, it's really serious, and, we'll do it on your terms. And I think, I'm curious what kind of practical tips you have for people who are returning to the dating scene.
Sure. Well, what you just said is so perfect, because you really have to make sure that you're ready to dive in. And that's the first step is this something I want right now? Being a parent takes up a lot of our time and our energy. And so making sure that that's something that you want to add to your pie, or, slice out. And then also figuring out, what are you actually looking for? And that's something that was interesting. It's one of my favorite statistics that we had from the study is 48% of single parents have a clear understanding of what they're looking for, which is higher than typical singles who might go out, throw spaghetti against the wall and say, hey, that was fun. Whereas when you're a single parent, I would say, figure out what it is you're looking for, or at least have an idea before you step out there, just so that your energy and your time is not wasted. And so that would be kind of those first steps. And then also just enjoy yourself. One of the things I used to say it all the time, and my friends who, whether they were parents or otherwise, who were single, they were like, dating is, fill in the blank in a negative word. And I always said, dating is fun. I have fun when I go out and meet people, because I'm making sure that the people that I'm meeting, and not that I had 100% success rate of, always knowing that they were going to be a good person or a kind person or a funny person. But I tried really hard to make sure that I was setting myself up for success, not ignoring red flags, really focusing on what I was looking for, and then just enjoying myself and not feeling like everything had to come with all this level of pressure. So that's
Yeah.
I don't know if that was 2, 3, 4 tips. I don't know.
Those are good tips. Those are good tips. I think that people definitely date with a lack of clarity, and it's so
Yes.
confusing. It's like, you're kind of stabbing in the dark and have no idea what you're looking for. And I'll know it when I find it, not so much. Maybe
Yeah.
not. It might take you 10 years. And I find another issue for a lot of people is they wait too long to start
Mm.
dating, right? So especially widowed moms who feel bad about dating again. I've had clients who came to me when their kids were like 16 and it's been 8 or 10 years since their spouse has passed, and they think it's selfish for them to date. So, do you have any advice for people who wait too long to get out there?
Yes, I think that today's the day. If you have been waiting, today is the day. I get it. I think it's completely understandable. Your priorities are where they lie, and also it's okay to want companionship. And so I would just encourage people, even if it's been years, decades since you've dated, I guarantee that the mechanism is similar to what you remember. And if you have watched a rom-com, I wouldn't say it models that entirely, but you get the gist of, it's really just communicating and connecting. And so getting back out there in whatever baby step feels comfortable, I would just encourage it, and that it's never too late to say, this is what I want.
I love that. Get out there. Today's the day. And I think a lot of times, especially with older kids, they're grateful for you to be out of the
Oh
house.
my gosh.
I don't think
They want you to
people
be
realize
happy.
they want you to be
Yeah.
happy generally. Some kids really struggle. They don't want you to be happy. I've had a few of those.
Yeah.
But it was interesting you brought up the rom-com. I was just last night, I was watching an old Moth recording of Amy Poehler talking about
Oh yeah.
dating. Did you ever see this?
No, but I
Oh
love
my
I
God.
I love all moth, anything
Yeah,
moth.
this was great. It was probably like a main stage, like a 10-minute speech story. And she's talking about dating in New York City after she left SNL. And she meets this guy at a party, and she asked him a question, and he's in the middle of eating an hors d'oeuvre. And he said something like, I thought you'd have better timing than that, or something. So their rapport was great. And they're
Yeah.
having all this like rapport. And she's like, this is just like in the movies. Like I met the perfect guy because it's just like in the movies. And then she goes on to talk about how it devolves and how he's like a total alcoholic. She goes, there were a few red flags, but I don't want to tell my friends, because they'll just bring up the red flags. And then he also said to her at one point, have you ever thought about eating human flesh?
Oh
And
wow.
she's
That
like,
that'll do it.
I'm like, is that a red flag?
I don't know. There's someone who would be like, yeah, he was just kidding.
Yeah, she was like, "Are you kidding?" And he's like, "No, haven't you ever thought of that?" So no,
Wow.
he wasn't kidding. Yeah, so she's like, "And Hannibal Lecter, who's an alcoholic." I don't think so.
I hope that is
All right,
always the exception. I would urge
yeah,
people to understand that is not the norm.
that's right. It's not the norm, but it was very funny.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, don't look for the rom-com, especially if he's a human flesh eater. But let's but let's get back to the topic.
Places I
Uh,
didn't think our conversation would go today.
I know. Yeah, you never know where it's going
You
to go
never
in a
know. You never know.
podcast, especially talking to me. All right. So I know that there's this term, Mom-aissance, that
Yes.
you've talked about. Tell us what that is and what does it mean for single moms who are out there entering the dating world again?
Yeah. So when we at Stir were talking about it, to me, Mama Sans means really just embracing you, embracing who you are, embracing what you want, really, and just embracing this new part of your life. And I think that oftentimes, there's a lot of stress that comes with being a single parent, a single mother, and really just taking that time to say, I deserve to be happy. And that could be dating or otherwise. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're putting yourself out there and wanting to find a partner. Maybe it is, but it's really about kind of owning your power, focusing on really rediscovering yourself and having fun. Because I do find, and I've seen this a lot of times, especially with my mom friends, is that it can feel like your entire purpose becomes your children, which obviously your children are so important, and really focusing on your children and their development and loving them and guiding them is such an important aspect. But you don't want to lose yourself in that process as well, because you're an entirely different human being with thoughts and feelings and emotions and desires. And so Mama Sans is about, you know what? It could be a little bit about me now too. Doesn't mean I'm going to abandon my children, but it means that I'm going to take care of myself as well.
I love the idea of coming up with a word for this.
Yes.
First of all, it's very cool. And it is so true that we need that reminder that we often lose ourselves. I mean, I think most of us were brought up by moms who were not great at self-care and prioritizing themselves. And I saw my mom just kind of get upset about a lot of things because she wasn't taking care of herself.
Yeah.
And you can lose yourself in the process. And I think it's also really good for kids to see the example of you taking care of yourself. I think we forget that too.
100%. Yeah, no, I think to my mom, and it's all about sacrifice. That's kind of how they all viewed raising children. And I do believe that we are in an era now where you can still raise amazing kids and you can be a fantastic mother and still love yourself and take care of yourself and want nice things for yourself in terms of, a life and items. It doesn't necessarily mean tangible things. It just you want to have a life that really lights you up.
Yeah. And you want your kids to have that too, eventually. And
Yeah.
I remember when I first got divorced, also because my parenting style was so different from my ex's parenting style, I took this opportunity to give them chores, to, have the follow through that we didn't have when we were a married couple, and to also let them know that this was a team that I was building at home and that I am not their personal slave. I'm not going to take a whole to-do list from them every day and do what they need. I'm going to take care of what I need first. And I started setting boundaries with them and saying my time is precious. I'm building a new business and you can't disturb me in the middle of something. And they learned something that they didn't know before the divorce. And I think it was really healthy.
Absolutely. I think it gives them independence and autonomy and responsibility and also allows you to really demonstrate that to them and think about now they can go if they so choose to have their own children and then, allow that really healthy cycle to continue.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last-first-date to learn more and claim this offer.
So before you mention the, know what you're looking for. And
Yeah.
that often comes up in dating. And people say, what are you looking for? What do you suggest single parents do to be able to come up with their answers?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to non-parents really deciding what they're looking for. It's just under the umbrella of how does this fit with my family? If this is a significant relationship I'm looking for. So assuming that it's someone that you're really looking to build a partnership with, it's, what are those qualities that fit our lives? What is the type of human that I want to attract into my world? And I'm okay being around my children, not necessarily looking for that parent, but it is a package deal. And so, I think back to when I met my now husband, I was looking for someone who was, and I had them written down at some point, I think we've all done this, in the dating game where I wrote down, I wanted kind, I wanted generous spirit, it didn't necessarily mean money. It just meant of time and energy. I wanted someone funny. I wanted someone ambitious. And so those were all things that I'm attracted to, but I also felt would be a really good part of my unit. So really identifying those, like get down to those qualities and figure out like what does fit with you and your life, but also light you up. I said light you up twice because I think it's really important to find those things that do. I think as we're talking, I was like, I feel myself like lighting up, and it's because I think that's what I really did focus on is what's going to make me happy, and then as the byproduct being make my family happy.
Yeah, I think that it's that oxygen first on you. You've got to take care of those core things. And, you're a testament to that because you dated him for 7 years and then married him and you're still together, which, is a testament to knowing yourself and knowing your needs and wants and making sure
and I'm
you
still
align.
Obsessed with him.
Like I love that.
It's such a beautiful thing. And it's one of those things that I didn't think was even possible. Even in the industry, I was like, man, it's going to fade. And it just hasn't. It's beautiful and it's awesome. And, it's treasured. And so that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. I mean, the treasuring something and not taking it for granted for sure. But once you have it, that's just the first part. It's then how do you nurture it? How do you keep it alive?
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that you have it and that you're appreciative of
Thank
it.
you. Very much so.
So when people are looking at dating profiles, it's often hard to know, is this somebody I want to communicate with? I mean, sometimes
True.
people write almost nothing, so it's hard to know, based on some
Yeah.
pictures. But if somebody's written a profile, what are some of the green flags that would be present that people might want to look for?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of positivity. And that's really across the board. If you are sharing positive aspects of who you are, what you're looking for versus, don't contact me if this, or, I can't stand X. And so I think that if the more that people could be positive in their profiles, the more they would draw people in. And that goes from the pictures you post to the words that you write and also the messages you exchange. Positive curiosity, I would move towards if we're talking about messaging, but really just allowing people to see you in your best light versus any sort of negative connotations.
Yeah, positivity is so important. There's so many profiles that say, don't contact me if, and
Yep.
no Trumpers, and no this, and no that, and just move along.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious what you have to say about the love languages, because those are very present now on a lot of profiles.
Yeah.
And this comes up a lot in my Facebook group, and I've seen it in other Facebook groups where somebody will say if they have physical touch as their main love language, I get so turned off. Does that mean they're just going to want to grope me? They think it just means that they're just interested in sex. I'm just curious what you have to say about that.
That's funny. I think that I think the way we receive love is so nuanced. I think that, it's easy. It's nice. It's a nice little bow to wrap it in to say like it is X, Y, or Z. But I think we all give and receive love in a variety of different ways. And that changes over time and it changes based on the relationship and the progression of the relationship. So I would urge people to say, take it with a grain of salt. Ask for what you need in terms of how you're feeling in that moment, but don't discount somebody just because they're claiming to have some sort of love language. And really, I think what's really important is to understand the why. If somebody does feel like, I have a strong physical touch need, it's because this is why. And maybe it's because my parents didn't really show a lot of affection and now I'm looking for that from my partner, not necessarily needing to grope people. So conversations are really cool.
They're so important. I would also
Big
say have a
fan.
conversation with yourself about why you had
Yeah.
such a strong reaction to somebody
Right.
saying physical touch is your love
Yeah.
language.
Maybe you don't like physical touch, which that's something to really think about. And, there's a lot of
Hmm.
people who do, but understand it in relation to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't just judge people so quickly. I think, there are certain things we can judge people about, that constant negativity and things like that, where there's some blatant red flags. But for the most part, we make up red flags and they're not necessarily there. Um, so Rachel, before I ask you my final question that I ask everyone, I'm curious to know if there's anything that you'd like to share that I haven't asked.
No, I think the biggest thing, especially when we're talking about dating, and whether we're talking about single parents dating or anyone dating, is that I can understand how sometimes it feels overwhelming and sometimes it feels challenging and sometimes it can be disheartening. But anytime I have this opportunity, I'm going to encourage people to really maintain that hope because all it takes is a little bit of magic and all of your efforts are worth it. So it's a little Pollyanna, but I had to.
Yeah, well, I just wrote my third book and it's all about hope.
Good. Yay. See?
Yeah, so I
Same page.
interviewed many couples that found love later in life, and these are the true stories of
I
finding
love
love
that.
and also the key ways that they made it work. It's not just luck and it's not just, happens to just special people. It happens with a certain amount of work and knowing yourself, knowing what you want, like you said today, knowing the type of relationship you want, the qualities in a partner. I mean, you can't, if you just go out there and don't have any self-reflection, you're going to keep getting what you always got. And especially if you are divorced and have had relationships in the past that haven't worked, look at the patterns, look at why they haven't worked in the past, and you can make changes that will help you so much.
Yep.
So yeah, dating can feel overwhelming, can feel disheartening. I love the message of hope. Any other final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date?
Get out there. Start today. I'm going to go back to what I said before. Start today.
Yeah. Start today and just do it. I think people tend to put it off and put it off. And it can feel like, I don't know how to date today. And, you learn by doing so much.
Yep.
So,
absolutely. Even the mistakes. So I think sometimes we learn more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. So I know it's easier said than done, but try not to be afraid of those mistakes as you do set out there and try to find that last first date.
Yeah. And don't beat yourself up for little things that don't go well. Like it's also like developing that thicker skin. Yep. That happens with experience. It doesn't just happen when you get out of the gate. If I look back at some of the people I dated right after my divorce and the people I spent way too long with because I was afraid to set boundaries, that's how you learn, and then you work your way towards somebody who's a little bit more aligned with you. So yeah, don't be afraid to get out there and just have the experience. I think that's what we should call this episode. Get out there.
Get out there.
Stop
listening. Go talk to someone.
Yeah. Stop listening to this podcast right now and go on Stir. So Rachel, tell us where we can find you. If you can share a website, that would be great.
I'm Rachel DeAlto everywhere, and Stir is available anywhere that you can find apps and download and get searching.
All right, fantastic. I'll have all of these links in the show notes. Rachel, it was so great to connect with you again. So good to see you too. You're always a ray of sunshine and hope and positivity, and I love that.
Thank you. So good to be here again.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please give us a high rating on Apple Podcasts and share the podcast with your friends. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.